Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what is going on, sir?
Not much. Monday after a holiday weekend is always a little bit, kind of a letdown, but we are going to supercharge it with Cowboys talk and, remind ourselves that we are, what are we, 3 weeks? Is it
3 weeks out, something like that?
3 weeks out, something. So we're marching our way towards more good news, even though the holiday weekend is over.
Yeah. So we're officially in lying season, right, of the NFL draft, because this is the time where we get some crazy rumors and we get some nonsense out there. But today, Landon, we're going to do some buy or sell on some of these rumors, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. The first one is buy or sell that Micah Parsons, the Penn State linebacker, could be the pick for the Cowboys at number 10 if Patrick Surtain, the corner from Alabama, is off the board.
I think I'm going to sell. I just, to me, that feels like it's a lot of smoke. I think that there is obviously a lot of interest in Micah Parsons, and there's a reason that he's been up near the top for a long time. There's a lot of potential there, to say the least. But I think, with the Cowboys, with where they are, and there's just seems to be a lot of smoke about linebacker in general at the 10th pick. And I'm having flashbacks to last year when Kenneth Murray was just being bantied about constantly as the pick then, and I think they liked Kenneth Murray. I just don't know that they liked him when everyone was saying. So I think that that's the case here too, right? Is that I think that they may like guys like Micah Parsons, and then I've also saw another draft. I think it was a CBS draft that Chris Terra. I'm going to totally butcher his name. Trapasso. Yeah, sorry, yep. Chris. That he put in that I think Zaven Collins is the 10th pick for the Cowboys, and I think it's a lot of smoke. I don't know that the Cowboys are ready to invest that highly again at linebacker, especially when there's other positions on the defense where they could easily improve. And linebacker, especially right now, just on a numbers wise, just seems very, very full.
Yeah, and we can talk about some of those other reports. I saw Matt Miller from ESPN said that Jamin Davis from Kentucky and Zaven Collins could be dark horse candidates for the Cowboys. And listen, the Collins one isn't all that surprising because we've heard back since December that the Cowboys have had some interest in Zaven Collins. Now, they've switched their scheme a little bit since then, and that's a long time from December to April. That's likely an area scout that maybe liked Zaven Collins, and maybe that was when the Cowboys weren't necessarily thinking about picking at 10, maybe later in the draft. I don't know, but it does seem like a lot of people are connecting linebacker to the Cowboys at number 10, and that makes me nervous, Landon. Like I believe you. Like we probably should be selling this, but why am I afraid that they're going to take a linebacker at number 10?
PTSD, I'm sure. Like you're a Cowboys fan. I mean, certainly there's a large segment of Cowboys fan that default as this is the worst thing that's going to happen to us, and the worst possible scenario is going to happen. Look, I think you were worried about this last year too, and
of course I was. Yeah,
good reason. And I think that they put a lot of chum out there, implying this. So. I understand the general nervousness because I don't like the positional value or the pick at 10 either. But I think that I also think that this is, like we said, this is lying season, and this feels like almost the exact lie that we heard last year. Yeah, and honestly, I love this came from Brian Broaddus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love Brian Broaddus. I am starting to worry that Brian Broaddus has become a chum dispenser for the Cowboys. I'm starting to worry. I'm starting to worry that he is being fed quite a bit of
some real, some not, right?
Some, of course, to muddy up the waters. And I think it's been a process these last few years with him, right? Where
it's been for a lot of people, right? That's the thing is we've heard a lot of maybe this is the Mike McCarthy effect, right? I think he wants fewer leaks. So maybe they are trying to get some chum out there and some misinformation. Again, we're not saying that Broadus is wrong here. It's just that we have noticed in the last year that things have changed. I guess that's what we can say.
And I'm not suggesting that Broadus is like in on it or anything.
Yeah,
like
sure.
I think he's just repeating what he's being
been
told.
told. Yes.
And I think that's the thing, is that I think people in the front office, the scouting department, have started to realize, look, he has this show he does. I think they've gone past to the point of, oh, we need to be careful what we tell them. And now it's to the point where they're like, hey, this is a propaganda tool that we can use to get the chum out there. So,
which is smart.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem with it. I just think that we all need to be conscious of that he, they don't work for the team necessarily, but he's got connections to people that work for the team, and the people that work for the team are going to do what they can to help improve, situations for the Cowboys during the draft.
And let's talk about the Micah Parsons thing alone, because I think it would make a lot of sense for the Cowboys to throw that out there, right? Like, hey, we're going to take Micah Parsons at 10, rest of the NFL drafting behind us. If you want to come up and get your linebacker, if you want your next Devin White, you're going to have to jump us. That almost feels more realistic, right? Like trying to get somebody, maybe it's the Patriots at 15 or the Cardinals at 16, trying to come up to grab Parsons ahead of them. That feels realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, and again, beyond just that too, I think it's helpful just to keep teams guessing, keep NFL teams guessing on what you're doing. Just so the other thing doesn't happen where they trade ahead of you to get the guy that you want, right? Like, right. I mean, let's just say that the obvious is true. The Surtain is who they want. We don't want a cornerback needy team to trade up to 8.
The Eagles, maybe. Yep.
Yeah. To get Surtain in front of us. So I think that there is value in kind of disguising who you want in the sense that you don't get your player poached.
We're going to do some more buy or sell questions in just a second, but I wanted to pause to tell you guys about Bet Online. It's the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Football might be over, but we still have NBA. We've got a college basketball championship tonight, and the NHL are all in full swing. Bet Online even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV. They have real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it is free to sign up. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Landon, let's get to some more buy or sells. This first one is another report from Brian Broadus about Richie Grant. Are you buying or selling that Richie Grant probably won't be an option for the Cowboys at 44?
I can buy that one. They have not valued safety a ton.
Nope.
Look, I love Richie Grant because I think he is a high floor plug and play player. And we'll talk about him a little bit more, I guess, later on in the week too. But I think that, there isn't as much as I like him, as much as I think he can come in and play right away and do a variety of different things for the Cowboys. I think he may have more value to a split safety team, right? To teams that are playing, that would want to play him kind of all over a little bit, because I do think he can do a little bit of everything pretty well. And I just don't think that the Cowboys are necessarily, they have a guy that they're going to play this year, right? They have a guy that they have penciled in at free safety. I think if they're going to go and get a safety in the second round, I guess it could make sense that they would want somebody with more upside that they could kind of ease in and hopefully develop a little bit more. Richie Grant is, a lot of things, and I love a lot of aspects of his game, but he is, and I know you're going to hate this. He's a 23-year-old player. He's coming into the league. He's I think developed to the point where I don't know how much, how far he is away from his ceiling. So I could see the Cowboys being more interested in getting a guy with maybe some more upside there, and then just kind of slowing his play time, easing him into the game while playing Kazee in the back end.
My problem is I'm not sure there's very many safeties in the day 2 of the draft that have a lot of upside. Like, I'm struggling with some of these safeties. And again, we're going to talk about this later in the week. We're going to talk about some other options for the Cowboys, but man, when you really start to go through these day two guys, it's not great, Landon. Maybe you'll have a different opinion than I do, but I don't love a lot of the day two safeties. As for Grant specifically, typically Will McClay in that front office they've liked to draft big school players in the first, the top 100. They did make an exception for Tristan Hill from UCF, same school as Richie Grant. I just don't know if the Cowboys want to make that a trend. You look at their second round history, they're almost always drafting guys from big schools, whether it's Penn State, whether it's Alabama last year with Trevon Diggs, or North Carolina and Bruce Carter almost a decade ago. They want to go big school. I have my doubts that Richie Grant is going to be a guy that they love at 44. Now, if he's at 75, I think that's an easy pick, right? I just have a feeling the Cowboys are hoping to get somebody who is like 19th on their board at 44, kind of like they did last year with Trevon Diggs, right? And I think that's probably the goal here.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the idea is that Richie Grant is appropriately valued at the 45 to 60 range, that you're not taking him because you're hoping that you're getting somebody that is appropriately valued at the 19 to 35 range that has fallen, right?
Correct. Yes.
So
yes.
I definitely agree on that side.
Yeah, I think Richie Grant is somebody, let's say you go Surtain, linebacker at 44, and then Grant starts falling to the late 50s, early 60s. Maybe that's when you see the Cowboys jump up and make a move. But again, I've got a feeling the Cowboys have their eyes set on maybe a better player at 44 than Richie Grant. The next buy or sell, Landon, comes from a couple of different reports from Albert Breer. I saw Adam Schefter talking about it this morning, that Penn Sewell is falling a bit in mock drafts and in the draft slots. It sounds like it's pretty likely he's going to get outside the top 6 or 7 picks. Are you buying that he's actually falling?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So I think he lands then.
I think
what
he ends
spot
up
range?
5. I think he ends up with Cincinnati. So I just, I know that there's lots of talk about how great it would be to have a reunion for Chase and Burrow. But that that graphic that's whoever put that out on Twitter, I mean, basically summed it up. It's like you've got to keep your quarterback upright, right? And you could say what you want about, about Sewell at all. I don't know what you would say about him, but that's that negative. But I mean, but the guy did not give up sacks, And,
well, so here's the downside. I guess that some people across the NFL, and I'm just relaying the information that Albert Breer said, is that there's some maturity concerns. He didn't play football last year. The arm length, I don't really care about, but some people are going to care. That's only 33 inches. Maybe if you're breaking tiebreakers, you go with, maybe a more rare player in a Kyle Pitts or a Jamar Chase, but I don't see how Sewell gets outside the top 7 or 8 picks. That just seems ridiculous to me.
Well, I'm pretty sure the Cincinnati right tackle had 33 inch arms, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean,
well, in their left tackle, Jonah Williams, he's got shorter.
That's what I guess. That's how I meant. Jonah Williams.
Both of those guys do.
Yeah, like they both weren't exactly long armed monsters. So yeah, the long arm thing, I don't. You
don't care.
What does Joe Thomas say about you don't play offensive line with your fingertips? So why are we measuring them?
Good point. Great point.
I tend to think that you can maturity issues. Yeah, that's shocking. I mean, the guy's 20 years old, guys. I want to talk about maturity. I sure as heck wasn't training hard enough and being talented enough as an 18-year-old freshman to come in and dominate the Pac-10. And I don't know, man. I have a hard time with that. I just think that's an easy thing to say because no one can confirm it.
Sure.
And so if you're trying to drive down the stock so you can draft Penn Sewell, oh yeah, he's immature. He's a 20-year-old. Like, yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing that people just casually say offhand to hope to drive down someone's stock so they can take them themselves. Maybe the Cowboys. Maybe it's us that's doing it. Maybe it's Jerry who's going, I think that guy's he just doesn't seem very mature. Who knows?
Please let Penn Sewell follow us so we can take a linebacker ahead of him. Last buy or sell, Landon. The Cowboys, this one comes from @Marcus_Mosher. The Cowboys could take a wide receiver in the top 100 of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, again, Mosher is just terrible about being fooled by bad smoke and getting it.
Yeah.
Look, you've been mentioning this for a while, and I don't disagree with you, especially like we don't know what's going on with Gallup long term. We don't, there's a chance I think that Gallup could resign.
I would agree.
I certainly think that chance has increased since last year as opposed to decreased, right? Because the market of this year was just not great for wide receivers other than anyone at the very tippy top. Now, maybe Gallup plays his way into that type of market next year, but I kind of doubt it, and
doubt it, yeah.
Just as far as like pure production wise, right? So I tend to think that, there's a chance that the Cowboys could re-sign Gallup. Having said that, if they decide that they don't want to, or, that his price point, even within a depressed market, is more than they're willing to pay, then yeah, they need to draft a wide receiver in the top 100 picks, just because they, next year they don't really have a plan for that third wide receiver. This is going to be a team that is continually going to be trying to win the offensive race as opposed to playing a more balanced team, playing as a more balanced team. So you have to keep up that level of offensive firepower even after Gallup's gone. So that means drafting his replacement while he's still here, or having a plan to re-sign him. But I think, the planning for who is your third wide receiver, your third target in the passing game for next season starts this season.
Yeah, I would agree. The only thing that I would say here is I think the Cowboys are going to be very picky about which type of receiver they're going to draft. Like, I don't see them going out and grabbing a guy that's a 6'2", 210-pound, contested catch guy. I think they're looking for a specific type of receiver, and that's somebody that has speed, right? Somebody that can really, really stretch the field. I also think it's important to note that in 2022, Landon, the only receivers the Cowboys have under contract are Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. And that's it. Noah Brown's on a one-year deal. Cedric Wilson's on a one-year deal. Obviously, Michael Gallup. So they're going to need some depth. I don't think it's going to come in the first two rounds, but at, what do they pick, 75, 99? If somebody is there with speed who can come in and give you a couple snaps per game this year and maybe take over the third receiver role next year, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm actually going to give you a name of somebody. I actually don't know if the Cowboys are interested, but somebody that I think would make a lot of sense. And you might even know him pretty well. What about Anthony Schwartz?
I was just going to say it. And actually, I did read a report that Dallas was interested in Anthony Schwartz. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, Schwartz has the kind of speed that is rare, not even just in this draft class, and not even just in this draft class where we're seeing people, totally, time these guys at 38 yards as opposed to 40 yards. He has rare for the world speed.
Yes.
I mean, this is a guy who ran I think it was a 10-2 in high school.
It was 10:07.
10:07. That's right. No, I'm sorry. Yes, 10:07. So almost breaking the 10 second mark. That's crazy fast. I mean, that's Olympian fast,
So that's somebody I could easily see if he's there at 75 and the Cowboys just think, hey, we're not going to find speed like this very often. Let's draft him, develop him, and have him ready to go in 2022. I could 100% see that.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer him at 99 just because he's not developed enough as a player.
No.
And it's definitely an upside play. And as someone who's obviously watched Auburn, he would get open a lot. He's very raw as a actual football player, as a person catching a football, as a person carrying a football. But if you could find ways to get him the football, he has speed that no one will be able to touch.
All right, let's take one more quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar. It's the best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors, and it's a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste absolutely fantastic. You can go to BuiltBar.com right now and use promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Landon, it's a mock draft Monday, and we've got a very interesting mock draft from the Draft Network. At pick number 10, the Dallas Cowboys had Patrick Surtain Jr. available, but they did not select him, instead picking Northwestern offensive tackle Rashawn Slater. We've seen this before, so it's not completely surprising, but the reasoning behind the selection, according to the Draft Network, is there's a lot of talent and depth at cornerback in this class, and you can find good starters in day two. You can't find high-quality starters on the offensive line in day two. You draft Slater, you protect Dak Prescott. Maybe he plays guard this year. Maybe even play him at center. He's your eventual left tackle or left tackle, your eventual right tackle, wherever you want to slide him in. How would you feel about the Slater selection at number 10?
Yeah, I don't hate the choice. I really don't like that reasoning.
Okay.
Simply because, there's an implication by that reasoning that the Cowboys desperately still need to get a starting offensive lineman. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I don't know that the Cowboys feel like that's necessarily the case. I think they would love to get an offensive lineman to help develop it, to kind of look either to as a tackle of the future or a potential swing guy of the future until Tyron retires, who could eventually become the starter. I think there's a place to take an offensive lineman here for sure. But I think that the implication that the Cowboys are desperate for an offensive lineman at this point, I just don't know that that's true. With signing Ty Nitsky, you feel good about Collins and Tyron Smith. And like I said, you have a guy that can come in and be your swing guy if you need him. You've got Connor McGovern, you've got Connor Williams, you've got Tyler Biadasz. You feel good about what's going on with three guys for two spots, and then you'll probably sign another guy to come in, maybe even Joe Looney to come back in and play backup center. It's not that I don't think that they should take an offensive lineman. It's just that I don't think that the implication that they need to take an offensive lineman should be used as justification from not taking Patrick Surtain.
Do you think there's any chance that they just have a higher grade on Slater over Surtain?
Absolutely. And if that's the case, and you feel like even with the added, bonus to their grade of being at a position of need, which, that's kind of how teams usually do that. If through all of that, they still have Slater higher than Surtain and they take Slater, I can't fault them for that. I mean, that's that. And I totally understand. I'm not going to be mad about it at all. And again, what they're suggesting is not untrue. That there is better depth in the second round, and you can get a starting level corner later in the draft if you want to. But I think the idea is that should not be the reasoning why you take Slater over Surtain. Because it implies that the need at offensive lineman is anywhere near the need at starting cornerback, which I think is a much greater need. Now, I think you probably get as much, if not more, bang for your buck on an offensive lineman. But I just think that if all the grades are equal, if Slater and Surtain are close, and Surtain probably is still getting a bump for positional value and need, I think you still got to take Surtain. If Slater's the better pick him, but don't do it because you think you can get a starting offense, a starting cornerback later.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't part of the reason why we saw like the Seattle Seahawks go to a cover 3 defense in the early 2010s was you can find and develop cornerbacks. You don't have to spend a lot of money and a lot of picks. It's more important to build your pass rush, and we'll develop those guys later. If the goal here is to maximize your offense, to be able to score 30-something points a game and then just get by on defense, isn't this the better strategy?
What's your initial plan for Slater coming into 2021? It's to kick him inside to guard, right, until he can play tackle. So you're not even talking about him playing the position that is the high-impact position.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Well, it's okay, but it's limiting the amount of years that you're actually getting that positional value. I have no problem with doing what we're saying, but if you're comparing the two, to me, if you're talking about generic starting offensive tackle versus generic starting cornerback, I agree with what you're saying.
Yes.
But I don't think that's what we're talking about necessarily. We're talking about a guy that you could play at either guard or tackle, who likely will start at guard and then eventually make his way out to tackle. But you're probably going to have at least 2 years in there where he's playing interior offensive line. And for those 2 years out of a potential 5-year contract, Is that value the same as having Patrick Surtain out there as your starting cornerback? I don't know that it is.
I don't know that it's not though. I don't know. I go back and forth on this because
I don't think you go back and forth because I don't think it's cut and dry. You know what I'm saying? Like I think the angles are very difficult. So I guess my point is that pick the guy that you have rated higher. Like
I would agree. Yes.
Whoever you got rated higher, pick that guy.
As long as it's not a linebacker, don't do that, please. No, but I listen, I still think Surtain would be an awesome pick at 10. And that's the pick that I'm rooting for. If I'm being honest about it, I'm fine. I feel great if you pick Slater at 10 because the way that offensive tackles typically work in the NFL is you don't want to be in a position where you have to draft one, right? Because that's when misses happen. And that's when you overdraft guys. So if a great prospect who probably a lot of people will grade as a top 5, top 6 player in this draft falls to you at 10 and he's got the position flex to play guard while you're waiting for Tyron and Lyle Collins to, either fall off or get injured or whatever. It's not a bad plan. It's really, really not bad. And that's why I feel like Surtain and Slater should be like your only 2 options at 10, assuming like Pitts and Sewell are gone. I really have a hard time believing they're going to go in any other direction, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the other thing here too is that I like Slater a lot, but I also don't think he's in Sewell's category. I know some people do, and that's fine. But the truth is that Slater is doing everything that Sewell is doing, except Sewell is younger and needs technique work. Is
that a good thing though?
Yes, because it's the old baseball analogy. If you got 2 guys who run to first at the same speed, one with perfect form and one with terrible form, which one do you take, Marcus?
I mean, I don't want to talk about baseball.
The one with terrible form, because if you teach him the right form, he'll beat the other guy by 2 lengths, right? So that's where I'm at with Sewell, is that Sewell could do what Slater does with imperfect technique.
That's fine.
Teach him perfect technique and see where he goes. Slater is a very, very good player. Can he play offensive tackle? Absolutely. He'll be a good offensive tackle. He'll be an elite guard. But that's a difficult evaluation, especially with comparing to a starting cornerback.
All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, you can download the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. You can follow Landon at McCool BCB, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher. And we will see you next time.